Let's begin our business of shaping policy and advancing development for today by looking at efforts being made by the CBN to strengthen the Naira. For many Nigerians, the exchange rate between the dollar and the Naira has been of concern, knowing fully well that the Nigerian economy is largely import-driven. It is often said that when the dollar sneezes, the Naira catches cold. But what has been the impact of the efforts being made by CBN to strengthen the Naira in recent times? Let's hear our in-house guest who has just joined us this morning. We have Sam Orovwuje here with us this morning as usual. Glad you have joined us.
Good morning, Femy. My pleasure to be here.
Good morning.
Thank you.
All right. So let's start the conversation by looking at efforts being made by the CBN to strengthen the Naira in recent times. You're aware that the Nigerian economy is largely import-driven. And so whatever happens to the dollar or any foreign currency affects our own Naira, our own local currency here. But what do you make of the efforts being made by the CBN to strengthen the Naira, given the results that we've achieved in the last 1 week? As of Friday, the exchange of Naira to dollar was 1,431 Naira. Your reaction to that?
Thank you very much indeed, Femi. Those who are in the foreign exchange market, last week, Friday, I think the Naira to dollar gained about 1.52% for just that day. And consistently in the last 1 week, the Naira vis-a-vis the dollar has gained about 12%. So if you look at it based on that kind of gain, then CBN has done well in terms of the measures put in place. CBN itself has traded over 50 million US dollar in the last few weeks within the foreign exchange market. So there's some improvement. To that extent, the market watchers believe that there are some gain in terms of the policy framework that was put in place recently. But how sustainable this will be in the next 1 week remains to be seen. If we have more gains in terms of Naira to dollar, then we'll be in a better position to salute the efforts of the CBN so far.
All right, so now that the Naira is appreciating against the dollar, what exactly can you, I know the CBN has brought up several measures to try to strengthen the Naira, but in recent times, what could you attribute this to?
One of the reasons those in the market advance for this improvement is that the CBN itself was able to put in some more dollar into the market, so that reduced the pressure. On the other hand, too, the supervisory framework in terms of how the CBN is able to deal with the parallel market operator and those of the commercial bank has improved tremendously. Those are the two major reasons that was advanced for the improvement in the market for those who play strongly in the market.
Let's look at some of the policies or decisions made by the CBN in recent times. One of them has to be the decision to float the Naira, and then looking at to also regulate the activities at the parallel market. Would you say these efforts are paying off, or it's too early to celebrate?
The floating, to a very large extent, has brought some stability because there was a wide margin between the official market and the parallel market. Therefore, since the floating, there have been some remarkable gain in that market. But then it's too early to celebrate. Like the former deputy governor of the central bank said, Kingsley Moghalu, till we get to a level between 1,000 and 1,200, then we can say the Naira is in good shape, because those who are thinking of getting it at 450, 650 are not in consonance with the current reality of the market.
So the current reality of the market, as at now, the CBN doesn't even have much forex to even supply at the official markets, and then currently Nigeria's foreign reserve is around $34 billion. So there isn't enough to support the dollars. How will this move to take it down to about 1,200 or even 1,000 between the Naira and the US dollar. How can it be achieved? Are there other things that need to be done to ensure that is achieved?
Yes, number one, the government needs to strengthen its fiscal policy and that of the monetary policy that has been put in place. On the other hand, the over-dependence on importation to a very large extent has to reduce drastically so that the Naira gets stronger vis-a-vis the dollar, because the pressure is essentially based on over-reliance on imported items. But then on the regulatory side, once there's some discipline in terms of the supervision of the commercial bank by the CBN, then the level of success that they have achieved so far can be sustained over a period of time.
Let's look at efforts being made to also tackle the issue of backlog of FX. The present regime inherited about $7 billion, and as at last week has been able to clear them. How has that impacted efforts to strengthen the Naira?
I think the benefit is those who are doing business in Nigeria. So the confidence in terms of those doing business in Nigeria, since they are able to repatriate their funds, the confidence will improve, and that will increase in terms of business opportunity, particularly for those companies that were operating that had difficulties in repatriating their funds. So I think it's just confidence building that that has brought about in the market.
The resumption of sale of forex to the Bureau d'Echange operators by the CBN, do you see it as also a contributory factor to the appreciation of the Naira against the dollar?
You can recall last month the CBN equally put a hammer on some of them, and I think they raised the benchmark in terms of what you pay to be able to get your license. Maybe to a very large extent that has sanitized the market. And that parallel and the official regime that has been brought about with the new initiative will continue to sustain the market where, like I mentioned earlier, where the margin was very high, then that gives room for some round tripping, which was one of the bane of that market for a very long time.
You're aware that whatever happens in the parallel market affects and of course determines, is the reality. Well, the official rate could be on paper sometimes, or not sometimes, could be what happens on paper, but the reality plays out in the parallel market. But the CBN in recent time has kept highs on the parallel market. Do you see CBN sustaining that effort? And if it's being done, will it also impact on the strength of the Naira? Don't forget that the CBN also pegged, the exchange rate at 1,300 Naira for FX dealings and other transactions at the parallel market. How do you see that playing out in the parallel market in months to come?
The mandate of the CBN is to regulate money supply in the country. So it has a mandate to regulate financial service, particularly on the monetary side. So what it is that they have done so far is they are bringing about banking supervision, which is one of the core rules. So once the commercial banks and other operators within the money market are supervised, then that will reduce some of the infraction or some of the rascality that take place in the foreign exchange market. So I'm sure the current governor will find a way to tighten this supervision. And once this supervision is tightened, then there will be some discipline in the market, and that could be sustained over a period of time. So the submission here is that some of the policy framework that they've put in place must be sustained in a way that commercial banks and the parallel market operator don't take advantage of some of the gaps that currently exist within the market.
Now, talking about some measures that CBN has put in place, it did introduce a new policy which demands for those who will be applying for Forex for payment of services to turn in their tax clearance certificate for at least 3 years. Do you also see that as a measure that will help? Or will it turn more people to the parallel market and then heighten the demand at the parallel markets?
I think the challenge here is the notice, in my view, when that policy initiative was put in place maybe about 2 weeks ago. I think the timeline was short, in my view. So, but that will help to control the market to a very large extent. So, I think the CBN will have extended the date for those
beyond April 1st.
Yes, I think the timeline is short, in my view. I'm just saying that the policy framework is okay, but the timeline to turn in that requirement may obscure some of the gains to a very large extent. So more people will look to the parallel market if they cannot meet up the requirement in terms of providing their tax papers. So, but providing that tax paper, again, is to increase government revenue. It's another way to say, okay, yes, you can source FX, but then we need to see your tax based on your company operation. But the timing should be extended to a longer time so that that policy framework can be successful. Those are my personal views.
But don't you see another form of bottleneck, in this kind of provision? Of course, it's to standardize the FX market and the transactions that has to do with FX. But on the other hand, reasons people patronize the parallel market is because it's the easy access to FX. Will this not create another kind of bottleneck whereby people will be discouraged and then they will resort back to patronizing the parallel market?
In my view, I think it's just in the short term because when you give that guideline, the timeline, in my personal view, but they are the policy initiators, so they have a better window of the data and what is brought on the table. But then you must do stakeholder engagement. That timing is the only challenge, but in the long run, I'm sure that once you're able to provide information that are data-driven, your tax properly paid, then whenever you apply for the official forest, you are able to get it based once your papers, so nobody can deny you. So, but then I think that initiative will work out and improve equally in terms of the inflow into the government coffer.
So over about a week, the Naira has gained up about 1.52% against the dollar. But this is not the first time we see the Naira making gains against the dollar, but it's often not sustained. What are those factors that could reverse this growth?
I think those ones were addressed earlier, just to re-emphasize them. Number one, the CBN has to make some dollar available in the market, which they have done in the last 2 weeks or thereabout. Over 50 million US dollar has been traded. So that's some improvement because there was some dollar cash crunch on the part of the CBN. Number two, the improved supervision of the commercial bank and the parallel market. Number three, showing up the minimum threshold in terms of the bureau de change operator and some mechanism where they were able to peg the Naira at certain level as help in terms of, but again, they will respond to the market based on demand and supply, which is a normal marketing framework that determines any exchange.
But what are the things that could happen and reverse this growth? Now, what you talked about now are the things that the CBN needs to do. But what could happen, like we've seen before, where the Naira was appreciating and it just had a great slide falling down against the dollar again?
I think I mentioned the over-reliance on importation. So the government needs to control the kind of imports that comes into the country. So if we do and support local production and consume made in Nigerian products, that will help to strengthen the Naira against the dollar. So the CBN must put framework in place. The banks must equally lend to the real sector so that we can sustain production and productivity within the local economy rather than over reliance on import, which has often weaken the Naira.
We often say, okay, we need to patronize Nigerian-made goods, but how visible is that? Even from the government circle, let's start from there.
It's very visible. It just has to be a deliberate policy put in place by government. On the other hand, as citizens, we must equally look inward to support the government initiative. The point here is that we have always accused public servants of recklessness in terms of how they spend public money. So if that discipline is coming from the president, I think I read in the papers yesterday, one of the media aide of the president saying that the president bid is due on Friday, and he has put a stop to advertorials and all kinds of greeting that will mark his 29th birthday, saying that the way the country, the challenge currently does not give room for that. I think that's signaling some effort in terms of providing leadership. So if we take that, or if that distill into the government practice, where those who are the helms of affair provide some level of discipline, we consume essentially what is made in the country. Even the president in recent media scan has equally said ministers and other direct aides of his government must reduce foreign trips. These are some of the elements that we help on the government side. And as citizens, our penchant for luxury goods based on import should equally reduce. I think is messaging, and we must redirect our effort to see how we can be our own brother's keeper by patronizing goods that are made within Nigeria. Once that is done within a short time, then this exchange issue will reduce drastically.
All right, so the Forex report also says that within a week, liquidity at the market actually improved because there was daily turnover of $199.7 million, culminating in a total turnover of $1 billion in 1 week alone. Diaspora remittances, foreign direct investments and all, improving liquidity. How can we sustain this? We know we still have many of our brothers and sisters remitting, and those who also want to bring in Forex into the economy. How can we encourage more?
More will come when we have fiscal discipline and monetary discipline. So some of the monetary framework that has been put up by the CBN, once they are sustained, once the supervisions are sustained, then there will be improvement in terms of the foreign exchange market. In terms of inflow, once there's a political stability, more foreign direct investment will come in. And once that comes in, that will energize the economy and will reflate the economy, then the issues of the forest to a very large extent will reduce.
As a follow-up to the question I asked earlier in respect to your response, I need to know, how do we get there? What kind of intervention is needed? We're talking about made in Nigerian goods. For instance, I'm looking at what could be done to encourage Nigerians to start taking Nigerian rice or fada instead of patronizing the one from Thailand and the foreign one. What would make Nigeria to stop looking for cars made overseas? You have cars being assembled, or to an extent assembled or being manufactured in Nigeria. So what kind of deliberate intervention is needed to encourage the patronage for our locally made goods, which is what can strengthen the economy, as we've agreed?
Number one is lending to the small and medium enterprise, which is the engine of growth. So government needs to provide incentives to grow that sector. Number two, let's not talk about cars. Let's even talk about the rice that you mentioned.
Even toothpick. Let's start from there.
Yeah. Let's leave the toothpick metaphor that we use to describe over-reliance on imports. Some toothpick might come in, but people manufacture toothpick here. But the point I'm trying to make, some of the rice that are currently consumed in Nigeria are actually Nigerian rice. But regrettably, because of competitiveness, some of those rice are branded as if they are foreign rice. This what some market analysts have said. So the point is that, like I mentioned in one of our programs in the previous week, we need to practice the concept of continuous improvement. So some of these countries that would patronize at some point had some challenge in terms of their production processes. So let's encourage made in Nigeria goods. Let's strengthen the value chains in terms of those who are into agriculture. The insecurity must be reduced to some extent. So if we take a holistic approach in terms of physical discipline, monetary discipline, even as citizens that will consume our own product rather than going over the border to smuggle substandard goods sometimes into the country. And again, the local companies cannot compete with some of these dumped items into the country. So we need that patriotism to be able to get to that level and sustain it.
Apart from patriotism, what about on the side of the local manufacturers improving quality and ensuring standard? Because people want value for their money.
Yes, I just spoke to that while we have a penchant for consuming some good from the outside, some of our products are not really bad as we paint them. But then there's a need to improve on the quality of what we manufacture locally. So we have regulatory environment that's supposed to supervise. So standard organization, NAFDAC, should improve on their regulatory framework and find a way to celebrate some of those manufacturing companies that are engaged in what you call GMP, good manufacturing practices, in a way that you can encourage the people that are doing well in the market, and that will encourage more people to consume those goods. So it's a two-way traffic. Government, on the other hand, then even consumer must equally believe in those products. So, but if you not consume substandard goods, then you equally have those regulatory framework that supports you. So you make complaints to the Consumer Protection Council. Some state has, then they will have the federal government to be able to put in check those who don't meet up with good manufacturing practices.
All right, now away from the issue of the Naira, let's look at the Nigeria and Morocco gas pipeline project to the tune of $25 billion. The essence of that is to connect these countries. It's going to pass through about 13 African countries to connect Africa to Europe. And then it's expected by December that this will kick off officially, and the NMPC and Nigerian government, with that of Morocco, has made commitment to this. What do you make of this project? The first question an average Nigerian will ask is, what is the significance of this $25 billion gas pipeline?
Thank you very much indeed, Femi. Melekari made this observation in a conference in Texas last week. But the point is that this has been an ongoing investment in terms of taking natural gas from Nigeria that will cut across about 12 African countries, particularly some countries within the ECOWAS sub-region. So a memorandum of understanding was signed far back in September 2022 to push this energy agenda. But then you have the Republic of Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, the Guinea, and some other African countries that are interested in this gas pipeline. So the estimate of about $25 billion is meant to complete that project, to take gas particularly to Europe. So the importance of this and the significance of this is that will reduce over-dependence on fossil fuel, and that will help to a very large extent in transiting to other energy regime, then this country that are contiguous to the pipeline to Europe will equally benefit. So in the long run, once this project is put through, then we are going to earn some reasonable foreign exchange from natural gas, in addition to what comes from the liquefied gas project as well. So I think it's a good initiative. The project has been ongoing, and the various countries, including Morocco, has signed a memorandum of understanding. And I'm sure the final disbursement is what Melekari was saying that will happen in December. And I think it's a good initiative, and in the long run, the country will benefit from this project.
This is a laudable project, but let's look at where it began from. Now, Nigeria actually wanted to do this collaboration with Niger, but because of the first relationship between Nigeria and the Niger Republic, it switched to Morocco and all. Do you think if it has sustained that collaboration with Niger, it will cost less, or it will be easier to do that going through Niger rather than going through 13 African countries and then to Morocco before the Europe?
No, I think the challenge here is just a business decision. If a project was supposed to take place between two countries and the project did not get through, I think we should not worry ourselves so much about what happened between Nigeria and Niger. What is important is that that project will benefit more African countries, and that partnership has reduced the burden on Nigeria as a country. If you have 12 other African countries, in addition to Nigeria, we should make it about 13 countries, including Morocco, to get this gas out of Nigeria. I think it's more beneficial in terms of the benefit to the sub-region, and taking the gas pipeline across the sub-Sahara to Sahara to Europe would benefit more people. And I'm sure that the revenue receivable from that project would be more if we are taking it through Niger. These are just my personal observation in that regard. So these more countries that are signing into the project, like they say, the more the merrier.
Now let's look at the business side of it, which is always our preference. Talking about this 7,000 kilometer project, how is it going to impact the locals or the local economy? When I mean the locals, the artisans, talking about local content, what kind of narrative would you expect as regards to this project to make provisions for local artisans who could also be beneficiaries of this kind of project?
Yeah,
and how will it impact the local economy?
No, to improve on the rate of employment in terms of technology transfer, that will improve on the locals. There's already a local content regulatory framework that supports welding infrastructure, that you have to be dependent on the local labor. So that will enhance that. The direct and the indirect opportunity that will come from that project is enormous. And I'm sure that that project will equally employ some Nigerians, even in other countries, in addition to the locals of those countries that are partners. And I'm sure in that MOU, there are some components beyond the financial commitment in terms of labor content, in terms of indirect labor that will benefit the 13 country citizens by the time it finally gets to Morocco and get on to Europe. So I think the benefits is enormous. And I think the expectations are high, and December is just around the corner. And I'm sure the project is already ongoing. So I'm sure that in terms of getting the final tranches of the investment will happen in December.
So this marks that Nigeria and the other 12 African countries in partnership with Nigeria for this Nigeria-Morocco gas project eyes is Europe. But do you see Nigeria and even Morocco being able to meet the demands of the market, because Nigeria exported just 7 million metric tons of liquefied natural gas to Europe in 2023, according to data from S&P Global, and it went down from 9.06 million metric tons in 2022. So, but looking at the crude oil situation, even OPEC quota, Nigeria still struggles to meet it. Now for gas, when the market opens, the capacity to meet the demand of the market. What are you taking it?
I think the capacity to meet market demand is there. I'm sure they have done their market feasibility studies and market viability studies. The financials will have been looked to. But then we have great reserve of natural gas. Is the exploitation of those gas. I'm sure that this Nigeria and Morocco partnership will improve on the unexploited natural gas reserve that we have, and I'm sure that they'll be able to meet up with the demand. And I'm sure before this kind of 25 billion US dollar commitment can be made to a project, I'm sure the market reality and the market studies, market research in terms of the financial viability, in terms of sustenance of the business, will have been done appropriately, and I'm sure the partners will benefit tremendously from this project.
Like you said, Nigeria has one of the largest gas reserves in the world, and presently we export, through the Bonny Energy plant and that of Chevron. But do you think this pipeline, if is in gear, is going to also help Nigeria to maximize his gas reserves, and then the issue of gas flaring will be a thing of the past? That's
exactly what I mentioned earlier. Once, one of the challenge was market opportunity, and this market opportunity will improve on the efficiency in terms of how they deploy natural gas, which we have in great reserve. So this is just one market opportunity that will help to sustain. And I'm sure in terms of market research, those factors has been built into that scenario. So the challenge we have currently is that the development of the natural gas sector has not been at a high point level. So this one new market will increase in terms of the development of that market. And like I mentioned earlier, that will help in terms of how we can tap into some other markets once this becomes successful. Mind you, this is even done in partnership with the West African gas pipeline, which is already taking some gas into some other African countries. So this will improve on the market efficiency of that company as well, and the volume of gas that will be supplied to the contiguous country on that pipeline will be far-reaching in terms of benefit.
So what would be the implication of this in terms of energy availability in Africa and these countries en route this project?
Now that you have a pipeline that is connecting about 13 African countries, the benefit here is that those countries that are partners will feed into that gas pipeline, and that will supply additional gas to some industry with those countries. So the volume in terms of consumption will increase exponentially, and that will result in financial gains for all the partners, and which will benefit even energy consumption in those various countries. Mind you, now that we have a mini grid opportunity in Nigeria, where those gas qualify, there may be other feeder to those that can supply gas to some other mini grids, even within Nigeria, and that will improve on the energy consumption that we currently have challenge with.
Given the experience that we've had in Nigeria, are you really bothered about the security mechanism that should be put in place to protect this kind of pipelines? And then the locals or the communities that are going to host this project, it's going to pass through like 13 African countries. Are you worried about their welfare, and what should be done in this kind of MOU to ensure that you have proper security for these pipelines, and then the plight or the welfare of the host communities are also protected?
Within the context of Nigeria, there's already the Petroleum Industry Act, which takes cognizance of host community. The concept of host community has been so enlarged that whether you are a contiguous state in terms of mineral exploitation, whether pipelines are passing through your community, then you will get some benefits. In that regard, therefore, the surveillance mechanism of NNPC in terms of how they contract security of those pipelines is already in place, and the host communities have a responsibility, as it were, to protect the pipeline that pass through those communities based on the promissory note of host community benefits in that regard. But then the other countries equally have a framework that will take cognizance of the security framework. But the only worry based on the current oil theft in the Niger Delta, there's a need to secure those pipelines further. So stakeholder engagement in terms of the beginning of this project must be taken seriously, and all the necessary standard operating procedure in terms of where those gas pipelines pass through must be open to the community so that they can secure them appropriately.
So this is a mega project. If this comes through, what would it mean going forward for regional cooperation and trade in Africa?
This is a big celebration. If about 13 African countries, Africa is just about 54 countries, and you have a 13th country already having a partnership in terms of energy, then I think it speaks volume that even within that framework that currently exists with this pipeline, I'm sure some other country that needs energy supply might want to drop further memorandum of understanding to tap into those projects, in my view. And that's, once that comes to fruition, some other partnership, some other MOU will come up to take advantage of that mega project.
All right, I think we just have to leave the conversation here. Let's hope that if this project takes off in December, Nigerians, not just Nigerians, by extension Africa.
It's already an ongoing project. In terms of drawing down some of the...
I'm talking about the official kickoff of the oil commissioning, so that once it's there, people can feel the impact, and then we'll have cause to celebrate once again. It will be a big project for Africa to come together. Thank you so much, Sam. You've really given your intervention, and that's quite appreciated. Thank you for your time and your commitment.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.